Hey everybody, what's going on? Hellbite here, bringing another video from Grab the Lantern. Today, it's Wednesday, and the patch is actually live, so let's not waste any time, and let's talk about the top 5 changes of patch 14.1. I'll let you guys know what the biggest changes were, there are a lot, and what you can be looking forward to in the coming weeks. 14.1 is the first patch of the new season, and as a result, there are a slew of massive changes being made to the game overall. This is not the patch note rundown to miss you guys. There is a ton of stuff in here, and I'm only going to be able to talk about it very high level. I will have links in the description to other videos I've done where I talk about these changes a little bit more in depth, so do check those out, and also do give the patch notes at least a once over yourself to just kind of familiarize yourself with the things that are going live, because again, I can't talk through all of it today. But with all that out of the way, let's go ahead and talk about the changes. Starting off with the number 5 change, the changes to Infernal Terrain. Now, Infernal Rift has been around for a while, and of course is characterized by the walls being destroyed across the map, but that didn't change up the map enough for some players. And as a result, Riot are actually changing things with regards to the Infernal Rift. Now, instead of destroying walls, Infernal Cinders will spawn randomly on the map in small groups, with a higher likelihood of spawning towards the losing team. And when you pick up one, you get a small burst of movement speed and an Infernal Cinder stack, which gives you bonus adaptive force on pickup. If you die, you'll drop some of your stacks, some of which will then become pick-upable by other champions in the vicinity. This is a very interesting change, and while I don't think it's necessarily a good one, I am excited to play with it and see if it meaningfully changes the tactics on the Infernal Rift specifically. I feel like it'll make Infernal Rift games significantly more snowbally and shorter than they are currently, but we'll have to see how things shake out on live. Moving on to the number 2 changes, these are the updates to the Void objectives, including a brand new objective, as you can see here, the Void Grubs. These guys are replacing the first spawn of Shelly, so they will spawn at 5 minutes. 3 of them will pop into existence, and while they're in combat, they will spawn Void Mites to help defend themselves as well. Killing a Void Grub will give your entire team bonus damage to towers whenever you're able to get in range to actually attack towers, with each Void Grub you kill adding to that bonus, and if you get 5 or 6 Void Grub kills throughout a game, you'll then get another Void Mite or 2 for yourself to help you push those towers additionally. These are a very interesting objective. It does mean that if you're a powerful laner, like a top laner or mid laner who has early priority, you can wander off into the topside river, kill a Void Grub or 2, and then go back to your lane before you lose CS in order to contribute to your team's objective count without sacrificing anything for yourself. You sort of don't need your jungler, but obviously having a smite there is a good thing overall. A very interesting objective that I think will really help shake things up. Obviously, Shelly now only spawns once per game, but she has been revamped as well. Rift Herald can now be steered once she's summoned by right-clicking onto her after she's been summoned. While she's charging, she's steerable, similar to a Scion ultimate. If she impacts a tower while being steered, she does significantly more damage than if you set and forget her. And, of course, the champion steering her hops off to a safe distance after she collides with terrain, regardless of whether or not it's a tower. She'll also damage and knock up enemy champions she passes through while charging, which is quite fun. She's also no longer deniable by killing the person holding her when it's about to expire. If you're dead and you still have the eye in your inventory, it'll automatically get used on your fountain, which I think is overall a very nice change. It does make Shelly significantly powerful, but also she's not going to be as lane determinative, shall we say, because you can't get her as early on into the game. Finally, Baron Nashor has received a facelift, and now there are 3 different versions of Baron Nashor that will spawn throughout the game. Sorry, not throughout the game. 1 will be chosen each time you play the game, and Baron Nashor will actually terraform the map as well. The Hunting Baron keeps it the same as it was before, the Territorial Baron spawns this extra wall in the front, and the All-Seeing Baron spawns a literal tunnel in the top lane river that will dramatically change up the area, even if you're not going for Baron. Each of these 3 forms has their own abilities as well that play into their summoned terrain, so do keep this in mind when you're going for a Baron, and keep in mind when Baron spawns to check out what kind of Baron it is, and how the new terrain will potentially influence your setup. Moving on to the number 3 change, I do want to talk about the blue and red buff changes, as I think these actually have the potential to be very scary. First up, blue and red buff their buff sharing is no longer tied to your jungle item. Instead, once the elemental rift is chosen, so after the second Drake in a game is slain, they will automatically upgrade to draconic blue and red buff. These versions of blue and red buff when slain will drop a copy of their buff behind, just as they do on live when you have a fully completed jungle item, but this means that because it's no longer based on your jungle item, everyone is kept at the same power level throughout the game no matter what, which is a very nice change. However, There are also some Voidborn versions of blue and red buff that spawn only after Baron Nashor spawns and only on a respawn. They will not automatically upgrade to this if they're alive when Baron spawns. These versions are harder to kill than their previous versions, but when killed, will give their buff to everyone on the killer's team. This is very scary for me. I can't overemphasize how powerful this is, giving your entire team both blue and red buff. It does mean to me that if you are able to coordinate your blue and red buff respawn for right after Baron spawns, and then take it, and then immediately group as 5 to try and do Baron, your whole team has blue and red buff. The enemy team may not have blue or red buff, or may not have the time to do blue and red buff at the same time, and this is potentially very scary. It feels very much so like cheat codes to me, having your entire team with both buffs at the same time. I'm hoping this is only for the first respawn, but if it's not, this is a hugely impactful change that you guys will have to be on the lookout for in your own games. Moving on to the number 2 change here, I want to talk about the itemization changes, and there are an absolute ton of these. I cannot cover all of them in this video. Suffice to say, if you are a mage player, actually, let me start off with the basics. First off, mythic items are gone forever. They are no longer in the game. You are no longer forced to build one of 4 or 5 mythic items that your class has access to. Instead, you can build whatever items you want whenever you want them, provided you have the money for them, of course. This is the good part. There are also some items that have been removed from the game. Some of these were old mythics, Gore Drinker and Everfrost, as examples of items that are no longer in the game, but some of these are also non-mythic items that have been removed as well, so do keep this in mind for when you read through these items, as that there are some old favorites that are no longer with us. That said, the general high level is that mages and assassins have both had massive itemization changes. These are all the mage item updates here. As you can see, there are quite a few, and assassins have very similar amounts of changes with their itemization as well. As a result of this, if you are a mage or you're an assassin, definitely give these items a read before you choose to start playing games, because there's a lot of stuff that's getting shuffled around on this update. Certainly something to keep in mind, but every class has had its own update, so again, do keep all of this in mind before you take a look. Supports also have had a very interesting change. They will now all build the exact same starting item that will upgrade itself as you earn gold. It's sort of a combination of both Spellthief's Edge and Relic Shield, where you can execute minions for gold, but also can harass enemy champions for gold. And at its final tier, when you're finished upgrading it, it has a full upgrade that you can actually purchase that gives it whatever stats you choose for. So these Celestial Opposition, Solstice Slay, Bloodsong, that sort of thing. So if you're playing a Selfish Mage, an Enchanter, a Tank Support, you will be able to upgrade it into an item that actually gives you some degree of value afterwards, but everyone will start with the exact same thing if you are a support, which is a very interesting change, and one that I like for supports overall. So these changes are huge, again, and I can't really go through it all this video, but definitely check out one of the videos linked in the description where I go through all the items in a little bit more depth. Finally, and potentially the biggest change that League of Legends has ever seen in my entire time playing this game, are the terrain changes. That's right, Summoner's Rift is literally changing on this patch. Now, generally, Riot are trying to make solo laners harder to gank, and even the map out from red side to blue side with these changes. Those are the stated goals. Let's go ahead and take a look at what they've actually done. First up, top side has been normalized a little bit more. It is harder to gank the red side top laner than it is to gank the blue, than it was previously. So now both top laners are sort of on even footings with regards to their gank ability. The mid lane has been shuffled around as well. You've lost one of the gank paths on the side. So you only have one rear path to gank mid lane from, and the brush have been pushed back by quite a bit. Riot have said there's something like 20% more time to see a gank coming before you have to actually respond to it, which should make it a little bit easier overall for mid laners to thrive. And these changes, at least I know, were specifically made so mages, the traditional champions of mid lane who haven't really had a home there in a few seasons, can maybe find some time to come back into mid lane and shine. Bot side, meanwhile, has added an extra gank path opened up behind the red side bot laners, making them a little bit more vulnerable and on par with the blue side bot laners, which always had to deal with the menace of tri-brush ganks as they had previously. Finally, the jungle has had a couple of changes, but most notably a much larger clearing for champions to funnel through in terms of objective fighting, so that way there isn't a single sort of main entrance and another side entrance that never get used, because they're both sort of choke points. This is a little bit easier to funnel through overall. These changes are really hard for me to quantify. I think they're going to be very impactful in your own games, but certainly their exact impact is going to be a little bit harder to figure out. We'll have to play with them and experiment, but generally speaking, keep in mind that the map has changed. Your gank routes will be different, your pathing will be different overall, and you should keep in mind what is going on before you start playing your own games of League of Legends on 14.1. Whew, and that is it for me today, guys. Those are the top 5 changes of patch 14.1. Let me know what you guys are most excited for down in the comments below. I'm really excited to play with all the new items, but again, let me know what you want down in the comments. If you enjoyed the video today, go ahead and leave it a like, and if you really enjoyed the video, consider subscribing. I upload a video every Monday, Friday, and on patch days like today as well. Once again, thank you guys so very much for watching. I do appreciate it, and I'll talk to you all later.